Hey, it's Tiffany Durr, the Essential Gardener, and I'm here to talk to you today about using and incorporating essential oils into your gardening practice. I am very excited to be doing this with you today. I'm just going to dive right into it. And what you're going to learn today is you're going to learn how to incorporate essential oils, how to kind of like the basics, why you would want to incorporate essential oils into your gardening practices. And then you're also going to learn the 3 ways that you can use oils in your essential oil or in your gardening practices. So, first of all, I'm going to start with the facts. And let me give you a little bit of background about myself. I am Tiffany Durr, and I am the greenhouse manager at the Land Institute here in Salina, Kansas. And we are a research facility where we're working on perennializing crops. But we really try to be as organic as we possibly can be. And that's what actually led me into essential oils. We had this huge spider mite outbreak. I had used everything that I could think of that might work to get rid of them, everything organic. And I couldn't figure out what was the best way to do it. And so I couldn't get rid of them. They just would not die. And I knew that the next step was a known carcinogen. It was a conventional chemical, and it was $300 for 10 ounces of it. I didn't want to be around it. I didn't want my coworkers around it. And I just was like, there's got to be something better. And so I Google searched, and it came up with try rosemary essential oil. And I was like, what is rosemary essential oil? Because that's how little I knew about essential oils at the time. And I found out I could go and get some and try it. And so I did. I came back, sprayed it the way they said to spray it. And by the next day, those spider mites were gone. And I was like, holy cow, I can't believe this worked. This all natural product just totally wiped them out. And I was so excited. And that's when I started diving in and wanting to learn more and more about essential oils. And there's not a lot out there on how to use essential oils to help control pests. And so I started doing my own research. I started reading research papers. It's the only place I could really find really solid information about it. And then I would take that, try to replicate that in my greenhouse and see how it would work. And then along came doTERRA, and I started using those oils. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later on. But let's go ahead and we're going to dig in now to the facts. So why would you want to incorporate essential oils instead of using a pesticide? Well, pesticides have been linked with several diseases, including Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, cancer, asthma, autism, and diabetes even, and lots more. Pesticides are also linked to the decline in pollinators such as bees and other beneficial insects. Those who are repeatedly exposed to pesticides have a much higher likelihood of reduced health, causing a shorter lifespan. Many pesticides sold to homeowners in the US are actually banned in other countries, but yet they're just right there on the store shelves, even at Target. So that, of course, is a little bit concerning. And so in comes essential oils. So wouldn't it be amazing if you could spray something that got rid of all of the pests, help boost your immune system, and also help the bees? Yes, of course it would be, right? That'd be incredible. And that is a dream come true. And when you add high quality essential oils, of course, doTERRA essential oils, to your integrated pest management system, then you are really able to accomplish that. Quality essential oils does matter, very much so. So when I was using the oils in the greenhouse, I was trying to figure out, I'm just going to pop over here to Facebook, make sure this is working okay. And I was trying to figure out what was the best essential oils to use. And so I'd heard about doTERRA and I understood their quality and I was excited about their quality. And so I decided that I should go ahead and pop in or I should go ahead and try them and to use them in our greenhouse. And so as I was doing that, I wanted to use my own personal ones I just bought, and they were a lot more expensive than the oils that I had seen before. that I've been using before. And so I decided, sorry, my nose is like crazy. Luckily you're there and I'm here so I can touch my face. And so I decided, or I wanted to experiment and see which essential oil was better. And I mean, I work with scientists, so when I do something, I have to prove it. I have to make sure that it's really viable. And so I use the essential oil mixture that I've been using, which I was using tablespoons at a time, but I had this more expensive bottle of essential oil and I did not want to use a tablespoon. So I'd read that you could use 10 drops, but it's 10 drops per gallon of each essential oil. And I mean, you could tell right away the quality matters. The ones that were the cheapest ones, the ones that I've been buying, they just couldn't perform at that low levels. And I didn't understand at the time, but now I understand that's because those essential oils were full of synthetics. They were diluted down to make them cheaper. They weren't pure. But when I was using the doTERRA oils, they were pure. It actually was a lot more cost effective to use doTERRA oils in our greenhouses than it was to use the cheaper ones because of it, because you didn't have to use near as much. And so it just made sense. Now, one important thing that you should know as you are trying to be more organic in your gardening practices is that it's extremely hard to rid your plants or your garden of a full-blown pest epidemic. And so with organically, it's harder. So it's very important that you check and scout your plants every day. And what that means is you're going to go out, you're going to look at your plants over. If you see some damage or you see something on there that doesn't look quite right or some pests, something's going on, then you want to treat that right away. You don't want to let that fester. If you let it fester, it's going to become this big thing and it's going to be much, much harder to get rid of. So, all right. So there are 3 ways to use essential oils in the garden, just like there's 3 ways to use them on a human. The first way is topically, and that's what I use the most. And that is when you're spraying them directly on the plant. Now, I don't spray pure essential oils on the plant. I always dilute it down with water and always at least 1 drop of dish soap. And that is super duper important. It's probably the most important thing. It's not because the soap is what makes them effective. It's because oil and water don't mix very well, do they? But when you add that drop of soap, it breaks that surface tension so that way the oils and waters can incorporate. And that's really important because then you're actually, when you're spraying, you're not just spraying water until the very end when you're spraying only essential oils. So it's really important to do that and just shake your container up. So that is topically. The second way you can use them is aromatically. So in your house, if you want to diffuse around your plants, people worry that's not good for them, but it's just fine. It's actually great for them. And it helps keep pests away. So a lot of pests, they don't like the smell of peppermint. They don't like the smell of pink peppers, another great one to diffuse because it just helps, or they just don't like the smell of it. So it helps keep the pests away. So diffusing is a great way to use essential oils around your plants. And then the third way is internally. And right, how do you get a plant to take an essential oil internally? You water it in. So by watering the oils in, the plants can absorb them through the roots and they're taking it up internally. One of my favorite things to do, so if you have a house plant or any type of plant that just looks like it's on its last leg, I like to take 1 to 2 drops of sandalwood and I add it into my water and then I water it in. And that is going to help that plant. It helps boost the immune system of the plant naturally. And so it makes it work really well. Okay, I started checking to see if this was working and I realized I didn't get all the way where I need to go. Okay, yep, I am there. I can see that. That's great. Okay, so which type of dish soap should you use when you're diluting them down? I like to use something that is really mild. I usually use Castile soap, but you can use, anything. You can use a drop of Dawn. You can use the On Guard concentrated cleaner. I use that a lot in the greenhouse because it sits right there next to our sink. And so I just add a couple drops in when I'm doing it. So it doesn't really matter what type. I just usually say mild because you don't want anything in there that's going to be too full of chemicals because you don't want to hurt your plants. So that's why I always suggest something mild such as Castile. But I've used Dawn and I've used the On Guard Cleaning Concentrate because it works amazing for it. You just need to get that surface tension. Okay, so I'm going to go on and I am going to give you guys some tips here and some of the things you can do. So first of all, I'm getting ready to start seeds soon, and I think my girls, oh, it's right here. My girls came in and tried to take some of my stuff that I was bringing in. But so I'm getting ready to plant some seeds right here. So these inside of here, there are, I can open this up. There are little things of soil, right? And so this is it's peat moss, and it's going to blow up, and it's not blow up, it's going to get bigger as you put water on it and expand, and then you can plant a seed into it. Now, the thing about those is that no matter how hard they try, sometimes they harbor pests. Either that, or if you have any pests around, they are super attracted to it. And so what I suggest when you're using something like this is that you put 1 to 2 drops of either peppermint or pink pepper on here as you're getting, or cedarwood, or all 3 if you want to be super proactive, and then add the water to it, because all of those pests don't like, and so it is really going to help you. So if you're using this, just go ahead and add those in before you put the water in, and it will expand. That's one time when you don't have to use soap. You can just put a couple of drops in. So if you are out working in your garden and you're getting ready to get all the soil tilled up and stuff, you're working on your soil, adding some peppermint or cedarwood into it, that is going to help as well. So yes, as you're doing that, that's going to help, and it's going to help keep the pests out of your garden. So you've got your stuff, you're getting started, and all of a sudden your seeds get moldy. Bum, bum, bum. And you're so sad, or the topsoil gets moldy, and you think, I'm a horrible gardener, but that's not true. Mold happens to everybody. It happens all the time in our greenhouse at work, and we are professionals. So if it happens to us, it's natural to happen to you, and you've done nothing wrong. It's just mold likes to grow on dead things, and peat moss is dead. So what you can do is you can take a little bit of melaleuca. You're going to mix it in some water. So since you're working with the little baby seedlings, you don't want to get it too much. And so you're going to take just a few drops, like up to 3 in a 32 ounce. I should have brought my spray bottle in here, in a 32 ounce spray bottle. That drop of dish soap, of course, and then you're going to shake it up, and that's what you're going to spray on top of your soil. If you're starting sprouts, sometimes sprouts do the same thing. They start to get moldy. So you can just mist it down. When you're misting down with water, have a couple of drops of melaleuca or tea tree oil in there, and you can mist it down. And that's going to help prevent the mold. Tea tree oil is a really powerful antifungal. So anytime you're having fungal issues, try tea tree oil. It's really effective. So mist it down your plants that are starting to get mold, or mist down your sprouts if you're eating sprouts. And then it's not toxic, especially on sprouts. You don't want to spray anything toxic on those little sprouts you're going to be ingesting right away. And so boost your immune system and have non-moldy sprouts. It's a great combination. So, okay. So sometimes when you first start gardening at the beginning of the season, you overdo it, right? We go out, we clear all the weeds out from the year before, we are getting the soil ready, we're tilling, we're hoeing, we're doing all those things, and then we get a little bit sore, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, I way overdid it today. Well, if you pulled too many weeds today, I love this recipe, and that is 15 drops of deep blue and 15 drops of copaiba, 5 drops of marjoram. You're going to put those all in a 10 ml roller. You can get those right off of your back office. Add some fractionated coconut oil, shake it up, and that's where you're going to put on all of your sore muscles from overdoing it, because it happens to the best of us. Another thing is sometimes when you're messing with plants, sometimes they irritate the skin, right? And if you have that type of problem, you can use tea tree oil and lavender together, and those are going to help with that. So let's say that you have houseplants inside and you start seeing all these little gnats around. They are so annoying, right? And they are just gross and they get everywhere and they get to be a huge nuisance. If you have that problem, what you're going to do is you're going to take pink pepper. That is your BFF if you have fungus gnats. It's very common on houseplants indoors. It's very common on when you start seedlings. Once you get one, they just like explode. And so the way you're going to know whether or not you have fungus gnats is they look like little bitty gnats. They're flying all around the soil and they're hanging out on top of the soil and almost looks like your soil is moving at times. You can pull it up, you can actually see their larval. So the fungus gnats themselves don't really cause that much damage, but the larvae that are in there will actually eat your roots. And you don't want that on your little baby seedlings or your houseplants. And so what you're going to do is you're going to take pink pepper, put about 10 to 15 drops in a spray bottle, about 16 to 32 ounces, 1 drop of dish soap, shake it up, and you're going to mist it down and try to make sure that you hit all of those adults. You can then also water in pink peppers. You can put in about a gallon. Well, it depends on how big your water thing is, but if it's about a gallon, then you're going to want to put at least 10 drops of pink pepper in there and then water it in. You can adjust that according to how much water, how big your watering can is. With that, I do go ahead and add a drop of dish soap. You don't necessarily have to, but if you want it to get really even throughout that watering, then you're going to want to add that drop of dish soap. So I recently had to change one of my recipes. Thank you, doTERRA, for coming out with the most amazing gardening essential oils last year at convention. Black spruce, citronella, lemon eucalyptus, all amazing for using in your garden. So my new recipe for my Stop Webbing Me spider mites. So if you have ever experienced spider mites, you will see all of a sudden you'll see some webbing on your plants, and they just start to like die and droop. And you're like, what is going on? Why are these, where are all these cobwebs coming from? But it's not spider webs, it's actually spider mites that cause that webbing. And if you look real close, you will see a whole bunch of little tiny mites. And I just used this successfully in my greenhouse last week. We rarely get spider mites, but when we do, I can take care of them pretty quickly now that I have essential oils. And so I did 20 drops of rosemary, 20 drops of citronella, a drop of dish soap. That's a common theme. And I used a 64-ounce little hand pump sprayer that I used. Shook it up really, really good, went and coated the plant really good. Like I made sure that every surface, every area where there was webbing, that it got soaked to the point of almost running off the leaves. So it's really important to get it soaked really well. And that got rid of those spider mites nearly overnight. So I sprayed them one day, the research place, so I got to stay on top of it. We can't, and especially right now, I can only be in the greenhouses in the morning. The researchers come in the afternoon, and so my time there is really important. So I have to stay right on top of it. So I sprayed them one morning. I killed about 90% of them the first day, sprayed them again that day, and I killed around, 99% of them were gone. And so I sprayed them by the third day. So 3 days in a row, I sprayed them doing the same thing. And by the end, completely gone. It was incredible. So that is my new spider mite mix: 20 drops of rosemary, 20 drops of citronella, and 64 ounces of water. So now, as I mentioned, you can use this as a fungicide as well. So if you have trouble with powdery mildew is like the bane of my existence sometimes. We have it so often in the greenhouse. We work with wheat plants that are really susceptible to it because of the certain genes that they have that we're trying to pull from this annual wheat to bring into this perennial wheat. And so sometimes we have to work with really vulnerable plants that haven't been bred for powdery mildew resistance. And so if you have powdery mildew, now you're probably not going to have it on your wheat, of course. You're going to see it show up on like your roses, plants like that tend to get it. And powdery mildew, the easiest way to identify it is on your leaves. It looks like almost white mold is growing there. And so you're going to want that's how you know whether or not it's powdery mildew. It's just like white, moldy looking stuff on your leaves. So for that, I use 15 drops of tea tree oil, 15 drops of basil, 2 to 3, or I'm sorry, not 2 to 3, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, and 1 drop of that dish soap still. And you're going to shake that up really well and spray it on. So the powdery mildew, that's what's going to work really well for it. I actually now have found that you can add On Guard to that mix, just like 5 drops. You don't want to get too carried away because sometimes that cinnamon in there can act as can actually kill the plants as an herbicide, and we don't want that, right? We're trying to save our plants. And so you mix that up really well, and then you spray it over the plants. All right, so moldy seeds, we've already talked about that. One other thing, so sometimes you have something going on in your garden and you're like, I don't even know. I don't know what bug is eating my plant. I don't know what's going on. And so I came up with this recipe, and it's called Just Stop Bugs I Do Not Know. So just stop it, bugs I do not know. And so what that is it's a winning combination of oils that are kind of broad spectrum. And when you use these together, most pests you can get rid of. So with this, I do 10 drops of peppermint, 10 drops of arbor vitae or cedarwood, either one will work. They're both in that cedar family. 10 drops of pink pepper, 10 drops of rosemary, and now I have added 10 drops of citronella because that stuff is super awesome. So, and then you're going to use that drop of dish soap, and you're going to mix that in 64 ounces of water. And again, you're going to shake it up, shake it, and then go and mist down your plants. This usually helps, you know, sometimes there's lepidopteras or caterpillars that are getting on your plants, and they're, you know, they're causing lots of havoc. And so this kind of helps keep them away. Now, if you want to use it as a preventative, you could use it as a preventative too. You could go out and spray your garden once a week with this mixture to help keep those pests away, because again, they don't like the smells of like cedarwood and peppermint. And so it's really good to keep that. In fact, rosemary, you don't really see as many pests on rosemary because pests don't like that as much. So that's a great one as well. So yeah, those are some of my favorite recipes. And I told you how to use them in the soil. As you're harvesting them, of course, you can use essential oils then as well. As you're bringing your produce in, you want to wash it. No matter what, you want to go ahead and wash it, because you just, you know, you've touched it, other people have touched it, you don't know what birds have pooped on it or whatever has happened, because your garden's all natural, so things happen in there. So you want to make sure that you're going ahead and that you are washing all of your produce as it comes in. And so when you go to do that, I usually just kind of fill my sink, put the plug in, and I put a little bit of vinegar in there. So like, I don't know, we have a huge farm sink, so it's kind of hard to say, but I use at least like a half cup in this huge farm sink. And then I put about 10 drops of lemon in there, and then just, you know, mix it around. It's good for all the produce that you're bringing in. And it helps keep them all clean, and it helps them last longer too. So I like that because it helps prevent mold from growing on it. You can also add a couple drops of tea tree oil in there if you want. So yes. Yes. So you mentioned cautions with cinnamon. Are there any other oils you should keep away from your plants to be careful with? Yes, there are a few. So cinnamon is one. Also cassia or cassia, however you want to say it. That one is another one that can actually be used as an herbicide. Actually, so that's a really good point. You can also use oils with combination of other things to kill plants as well. So if you have some weeds growing and you're trying to get rid of them all naturally, if you take 1 cup of Epsom salt, 1 cup of Dawn dish detergent, it does have to be Dawn this time, and 1 cup of vinegar, and then about 20 drops of cassia, which is how I pronounce it. And you mix that together, shake it, shake it, shake it, and then you can go and spray that on your weeds. Now you want to make sure you're not getting those on your gardening plants, because again, that is going to be harmful to them because it's an herbicide, and herbicides kill plants. So make sure that you're really targeting your weeds with it. So thank you for bringing that up. Yes, so cassia, cinnamon, oregano can also, I do love oregano because it's a super hot oil, so it can burn, right? It burns us if we use it without diluting it, and it can do the same thing to pests. But if you use too much, so I always limit oregano to no more than 10 drops per gallon of water. And sometimes I only do, especially on seedlings, I'll only do like 5 drops per gallon of water with oregano. So that's another one that you want to make sure that you're not going over the top with. Let's see, those were the two. So when I did my experiments, I am working on writing a research paper. It's really intimidating with my work on working with thrips, which is more of a greenhouse pest. They are out in the wild, but you don't see as much damage on them because there's so many predators outside of the greenhouse, but we just don't have as many predators, of course, inside the greenhouse to take care of them. And so it's a major problem with greenhouses. It's a little bitty tiny bug, and it can wreak havoc on almost any plant that's in a greenhouse. And so as I was doing my experiment with that, I would take 1 leaf of either alfalfa or clover, depending upon what we had in the greenhouse at the time, and add 10 of those thrips, and then I'd spray them down with different essential oil singles, blends, or singles, no blends. And oregano and cassia were the only 2 that I ever had trouble with them actually harming the plant. Cassia, I mean, boom, that by the next, I always open it up 24 hours later and see how many insects were alive. All the insects were dead, but the plant leaf was brown and curled up. So that's how I know cassia is one you really want to stay away from. Or if you're going to use it, you're going to be very cautious with it and use it no more than 5 drops per gallon. So, and same with oregano. Oregano, every now and then, especially my live bioassays, would do that. Oh, scale. Scale is just a special thing in our lives. If you don't know for sure what I'm talking about, scale is this insect that gets on the side of your plant, and it just gets like glued. It like glues itself to the side of it. Leaves, they're just gross. Look them up on the internet if you don't know what they are. But they tend to be on house plants or bonsai trees and those types of things. And so they are hard to see, especially on a bonsai tree, because they blend in. But what you do if you have it is you're going to spray them. It's peppermint. Peppermint's amazing. You can add a little bit of cedar wood in there if you want to. We had scale in the greenhouse for the first time because we've got some pet plants in there that aren't supposed to be in there. But with me not being able to monitor everything as closely, people have been sliding them in. I haven't been able to tell them, hey, those aren't supposed to be in here. So we did have some scale in our greenhouse recently, and we sprayed them one time with a mixture of 20 drops of peppermint per 64 ounces of water, and of course that drop of dish soap, and added a couple, that's it. That's actually all we did. 20 drops of peppermint, 64 ounces of water, and that drop of dish soap, mixed it up, sprayed it on, and gone, just gone. We killed them by the next day. I do recommend if you have them on your plant, you kind of go through as you're spraying them and kind of scrape. You can scrape off what you can and make sure that you're really doing a thorough job, especially like getting the backside of the leaves. Sometimes they like to hide out there. So spray it really close and make sure that you're getting a really good coating on those scale. So yes. Okay. I already told you my secret of sandalwood, which is really great for helping to boost the immune system. Or if you have seedlings that just like aren't coming up the way you think that they should be coming up, just try watering in some sandalwood. It's like On Guard for us. It helps boost the immune system. Or Melissa for us. It helps. That actually is more like Melissa for humans is sandalwood for plants. It just is a miracle worker. It really helps boost their immune systems. Okay, have I gave you, so there's one more recipe that I have here that I wanted to share, and that is for a true bug. So a true bug is like a beetle, like a beetle. If you have some type of like a cucumber beetle that's eating your plants, then this is what I recommend. And this is a hotter one because those guys, they have that outer shell, right? And so it's harder to get down in there and hurt them. And so this has a pretty heavy dose of oregano. If you have seedlings, I would not spray this on your seedlings. But if you have bigger plants and you're like, it's like either spray this, either they're going to die from the cucumber beetles, or you spray this and maybe it hurts them, then go for it, because otherwise they're going to die anyways, right? So this is my true bug / beetle recipe, and it's 25 drops of oregano, 20 drops of peppermint, 15 drops of thyme. And you guys, I haven't talked much about thyme, but it's probably my favorite. I use it in the greenhouse a lot. 15 drops of arborvitae or cedarwood, either one, again, works the same. That drop of dish soap or On Guard cleaning concentrate, and then 32 to 64 ounces of water. And then you're going to shake it up and you're going to spray them and try to get direct contact. This is something you really need that direct contact with. Now, they don't like the smell as much, so it might repel them. But the more you can get that direct contact, the more they're going to be like, I got to get out of here. So, yes. So I kind of told you a little bit of my story and how I work at the Land Institute and how these have saved me more than once. So just because I use essential oils doesn't mean it's the only thing that I use in our greenhouse. We are as organic as we can be, but I do use things such as beneficial insects. So one thing you got to remember when you're doing these is that not all insects are bad, and to keep a good eye on like ladybugs and praying mantises, bees. Bees actually love it. I spray, we have bumblebees that we pollinate with. If you should follow me on Facebook if you love bees, because while we have them, I do a daily bee zen where you can see them flying around. And when I spray oils in there, they actually fly through it because it helps boost their immune system and they love it. And so just make sure that you're being mindful that not all bugs are bad. It's good to identify. You can always there's all kinds of apps that you can use to identify what your pests are or your bugs are. Maybe they're not a pest. So just be mindful of that, because you do want those good bugs to be in there helping you take care of the garden as well. Yes, and I'm trying to think if there's anything else. There's one other thing. So yeah, you can use neem. It's an okay product. I think it's a little more praise than what it should. I don't have as good of luck with it in the greenhouse. I'm just going to be honest with you. We do have a few products that we use that do have neem as a major ingredient, but more often than not right now, we've been using that and watering it in to help kill larvae that are in there. But it is friendly to use with nematodes. I use a lot of nematodes. If you want to take the time and water in nematodes into your garden, I highly recommend it, because the right type of nematodes can really help control a lot of pests that are down there and doing what they shouldn't be doing. I do not recommend that you use diatomaceous earth on your plants, especially if they are in bloom, because that can kill bees. We accidentally had that happen when we first got bees. We just didn't know enough about them when we first got them, and I had used diatomaceous earth to try to kill insects, which was awesome and it worked, but we didn't get them rinsed off good enough before the bees came in, and it's killed several bees before we figured out what was going on. So diatomaceous earth, great for incorporating on your soil, not so much on your plants if you're trying to, if you have a lot of pollinators in the area. What else? I'm trying to think if there's some other thing that I thought of earlier today that I wanted to tell you that you could use that was not an essential oil, but whatever it is, it's gone. It's gone, it's gone. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments and I will read them over. Be very mindful of what you're buying, even at Target. Last year, I was at Target and I was looking for a hose end because I needed to replace one for work. And I saw their pesticides sitting there and I was like, I didn't realize that they carried garden pesticides. And so I go and I pick it up and I look at it and I looked at the active ingredients. So on this, it doesn't say anything about you wearing a mask. It doesn't say anything about you, anything, gloves, nothing. If I were to spray that thing with that amount of that active chemical in the greenhouse, I would have had to be fully suited up in coveralls with a full mask respirator on. And after I sprayed, nobody could go in that area for 12 hours. 12 hours before anybody else could go back into that area. And so it's just a little disheartening that here in the States, people, I mean, it's just, you know, like when you know better, you do better. And so just be wary or cautious if you're going to go buy a pesticide. Make sure that you read up on it, find a commercial label with it, see what personal protective equipment they say that you should be using with it on that rate, and then use those even if you have the homeowner's version and it doesn't say any of that, and keep your kids away and keep your pets out of that area, because chemicals, like I said, pesticides can cause a lot of issues in humans, and so it's really important that we use them very sparingly and that we try to be as organic as we can be when we can be. So okay, I hope that you guys have enjoyed this. I sure have had fun. I always love talking about essential oils and how you can use them. And so with that, I am going to end this. So thank you guys so much. Thanks for listening. And I hope that you've had fun and you've learned a lot. And again, if you have any questions, please drop them below.